Welcome to the Hindu Daily.
It's great to be here. We have an absolute mountain of information to get through today, but I think the view from the top is going to be more than worth it.
It really is. We're taking a stack of 12 articles, the absolute best of what's out there, and we are going to distill them down to their very essence. But we aren't just, reading headlines today.
No, not all.
We are looking for the signal and the noise. We're going to try and connect the dots between policy, technology, and the human condition itself.
Exactly. And the roadmap for today is, well, it's fascinating because these themes, they overlap in some really unexpected ways. We're starting with the editorial pages, tackling the digital lives of our kids and the messy politics of our neighbors. Then we're crunching some serious numbers on the future of Indian democracy in the data point section.
And from there, we're going to look up quite literally at the architecture of the universe in the science section. After that, we pivot to a double header in text and context that might just change how you think about your job and maybe even how you fall in love.
We'll also cover the business of what the article calls economic plumbing and aviation. We'll check in on a political firestorm brewing in the U.S. in the foreign section, and then wrap it all up with two incredibly powerful human stories in the spotlight section.
The mission is clear. We are going to extract pure insight, so let's not waste a single second. We're jumping straight into the editorial section with Article 1, The Digital Dilemma Beyond the Social Media Ban.
This is the conversation happening in every living room right now. It's heavy. And it's incredibly urgent. It all stems from a truly tragic event in Ghaziabad recently. 3 sisters' children, really, aged 12, 14, and 16, died by suicide.
It's absolutely heartbreaking.
It is. And the preliminary police reports are linking this tragedy directly to screen addiction and a severe conflict with their parents over phone usage. It's the worst-case scenario that terrifies every single parent.
And naturally, when something this horrific happens, the immediate societal reflex is stop this, ban it. We're seeing this massive wave of support for bans similar to what Australia enacted with their under-16 social media ban, or what Spain is proposing right now.
Right. The emotional logic is, it's sound.
Yeah.
If the phone is the weapon, you take the weapon away.
Yeah.
But the editorial argues that while a ban is emotionally satisfying, it feels like we are doing something decisive. It is actually, and this is the quote, a blunt instrument.
A blunt instrument.
And blunt instrument, well, they usually cause a lot of collateral damage without actually fixing the very delicate problem at the heart of it all.
They bring up a sociological concept here that I found really, really fascinating. It's called the folk devil.
Yes, from Stanley Cohen. The theory is that when a society faces a complex, messy problem that it can't easily solve, like the changing nature of childhood, mental health crises, family breakdown, it subconsciously creates a folk devil.
A convenient villain.
A convenient villain? You pin all the societal anxiety on that one thing, you launch a disproportionate crackdown on it, and you tell yourself you've fixed the problem.
So in this case, the folk devil is the smartphone app. It just simplifies the whole narrative. But, okay, let's get specific. Why does the article argue that bans would fail, especially in the Indian context?
There are 3 distinct hurdles here that a simple ban just can't clear. The first is what they call technical porosity. We have to be honest with ourselves. Kids today are digital natives. They're often way more tech-savvy than the regulators or even their own parents.
So if you block Instagram, they'll just find a way around it.
They'll find a way around it in 5 minutes, exactly. They migrate. If you ban the regulated apps, they'll move to virtual private networks, VPNs, to bypass the ban. Or, and this is the real nightmare scenario, they move to the dark web, or these encrypted corners of the internet where there is absolutely zero moderation.
Okay, so by trying to protect them, you might actually be pushing them from say, a regulated public park, which has some issues, into a dark, unlit alleyway where extremists and groomers can operate completely unchecked.
That's precisely the risk. It's the prohibition paradox. The second hurdle is what the article calls the lifeline argument. We often view social media through our own lens, maybe of entertainment or distraction. But for marginalized groups.
You mean like rural teens or?
Yeah, rural teens, queer youth, differently abled teenagers. For them, social media isn't just a toy. It is often their only community. It is the only place they can find support systems they simply don't have at home or in their village.
That's a crucial perspective. So a ban cuts off that lifeline, and it could potentially isolate them even more.
It absolutely could. And the third point is uniquely critical for India, gender disparity. We live in a society that, in many regions, is still deeply patriarchal. So if the government mandates strict age gating or bans that require ID verifications, many families won't navigate that nuance equally.
They might just say, oh, it's too complicated and take the device away from the girls.
That's the fear. Exactly.
Right.
They might just confiscate devices from girls entirely while letting the boys slide. And the data, it's already so stark. Only 33.3% of women in India have used the internet, compared to 57.1% of men.
Wow.
A clumsy ban could blow that gap wide open, effectively locking an entire generation of girls out of the digital future.
So if banning is a trap, what is the actual solution here? I mean, we can't just throw up our hands and do nothing.
No. And the article suggests shifting the burden. Instead of policing the child, we need to police the provider. We need duty of care obligations for big tech. This means these companies have a financial obligation to design their products to be safe, backed by massive monetary penalties if they fail.
It's like how we regulate car manufacturers. We don't ban cars, we just demand they have seatbelts, airbags, and crash tests.
That is the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And this needs to be enforced by independent regulators, not just the ministry, which can, be swayed by politics. And finally, they mention AI. You can't just ban social media and ignore the fact that kids are now talking to AI chatbots for mental health advice.
Right.
That poses huge risks of what they call cognitive debt, or just getting really bad advice. The regulation has to cover the entire ecosystem.
That is a lot to digest, but it definitely puts the debate in a much clearer light. All right, let's move to our second editorial, looking across our borders to Myanmar. This is Article 2, Myanmar's Managed Elections and India's Strategic Dilemma.
This is a classic geopolitical tightrope walk. It's been 5 years since the military coup in Myanmar, and the junta there has just concluded a voting process between December 2025 and January 2026.
You sound hesitant to even call it an election.
Well, the article itself calls it a managed exercise, which is diplomatic speak for rigged. Let's just look at the reality of it. Voting only took place in 265 out of 330 townships.
And why is that?
Because the military doesn't actually control the ground in the others. And on top of that, the main opposition party, the NLD Aung San Suu Kyi's party, was completely dissolved before the vote even happened.
So the military-aligned party, the USDP, won. I imagine there are no surprises there.
None whatsoever. But the really telling statistic is the turnout. In previous, more open elections, turnout was around 70%. This time, it dropped to 55%.
So that's the public voting with their feet?
It's a silent rejection of the entire process. Exactly. But the question is, why does this matter so much to us here in India?
Because geography is destiny, right? We share a 1,643-kilometer border with Myanmar. This isn't just foreign policy, it's our domestic security. The instability there, it just spills over.
We're seeing that already with the refugee crisis, aren't we?
We are. We have over 90,000 refugees currently in Mizoram and Manipur, and that changes local demographics, it strains resources. Plus, India has these major strategic projects like the trilateral highway that's supposed to connect us to Southeast Asia, which are completely stalled because of the violence.
So India is in a bind. We desperately need Myanmar for our Act East policy, but we can't fully embrace a regime that's, faking democracy.
It's what the article calls a calibrated stance. Prime Minister Modi actually met with General Min Aung Hlaing. He supported development, which is safe, but he notably emphasized inclusive elections without explicitly endorsing this specific flawed election.
So he's trying to keep the door open without legitimizing the fraud.
Exactly. But there is a darker, non-traditional threat emerging from this chaos, isn't there? The article talks about cyber slavery.
This was the most shocking part for me. When a state collapses, criminal enterprises just move right in. On the Myanmar border, these massive cyber scam centers have sprung up. And they aren't just call centers, they're prisons. They kidnap people, including Indians, and force them to run online scams.
That is absolutely terrifying.
It is. Since 2022, 2,165 Indians have been rescued from these camps. It just goes to show that when your neighbor's house is on fire, you don't just get smoke, you get burned by the sparks.
Let's shift gears now to the data point section. We're going to look at the numbers behind our own democracy. Article 3. The Geographic Imbalance of Indian Parliamentary Majorities.
Now, this is one for the political junkies, but the implications affect every single citizen. We all know the magic number to form a government in the Lok Sabha is 272 seats. But this analysis asks a deeper question. Where do those 272 seats come from?
Because the geography of the winner determines the flavor of the federalism.
Precisely. They analyze 15 Lok Sabhas and the trend. A very distinct skew. Historically, the north and the west of India have weighed much, much heavier in ruling coalitions than their population share might even warrant.
So the South has been underrepresented in the majority government. How often?
9 out of 15 times.
9 out of 15. So nearly two-thirds of the time, the South is being governed by a coalition that doesn't significantly rely on Southern MPs for its majority.
Essentially, yes. But the exceptions are what's really fascinating and instructive. You look at 1991. The Congress Party shrank in the north, but they held on to a majority thanks to a massive sweep in the south. And what happened? We got P.V. Narasimha Rao, our first prime minister from the south.
And then there's 1999.
Right, Vajpayee's NDA. That was arguably one of the most geographically evenly spread coalitions we've ever seen. It had representation from just about everywhere, which gave it a certain kind of stability.
The article also talks about this heartland factor. What is that?
This is key to understanding the tension we see today. If you look at, say, 1977 and 1989, the North and the South were totally divergent politically. The North was on fire with caste politics, the Mandel Commission, and religious politics, the Mandir issue.
And the South was largely untouched by that specific turbulence.
Largely. And in those years, southern states comprised as little as 2% of the government benches.
2%. That's practically exclusion.
It's a tiny fraction. And bringing it to the present, the current majority relies heavily on the heartland, the BJP base. But they do have key allies in the east and south, like the JDU in Bihar and the TDP in Andhra. But here is the ticking time bomb.
Delimitation.
Delimitation. The freeze on seat numbers ends after the 2026 census. This is the elephant in the room for Indian federalism.
Because if we redraw the parliamentary map based strictly on population,
the North, which has grown faster, gained seats. The South, which very effectively controlled its population, loses relative power. It gets punished, in a way, for its success.
So the ruling party faces a massive strategic conflict here.
A huge one. Do they prioritize their heartland base, which would gain power in a purely population-based delimitation? Or do they try to expand into the South, into Kerala, Tamil Nadu, to be truly national and preserve that delicate federal balance? The numbers game is about to get very real and very, very contentious.
Let's look up now literally to the science section. Article 4. Stellar Ambitions. India's Frontier in Space Research and Funding.
This is some good news, for the most part. We're looking at the budget allocation for the Department of Space for 2026-27. It's over 13,416 crore rupees.
That's a healthy number, so where is all that money going?
Big infrastructure. We are building a 30-meter National Large Optical Infrared Telescope and a National Large Solar Telescope, both of them in Ladakh. Plus, a new Cosmos 2 planetarium in Amaravati.
Ladakh makes sense. High altitude, clear skies. But there's always a but, isn't there?
There is always a but. The but here is underutilization. It's a classic bureaucratic problem. Money gets allocated, but the red tape is so thick that it doesn't get spent efficiently. Projects get stuck in bottlenecks. But the deeper issue identified here is what they call the capability gap.
We're still relying on others for the high-end stuff.
We are. The article quotes an anonymous astrophysicist who points out that we rely very heavily on overseas facilities for high-resolution data. Specifically, and this is the crucial part, we lack a telescope for sub-millimeter wavelengths.
Okay, you're going to have to help us out here. Why do we care about sub-millimeter wavelengths?
Think of the universe as being full of dust and gas. Regular telescopes, optical ones, can't see through it. It's like trying to look through fog. But sub-millimeter waves can. They allow us to see the architecture of the universe.
The architecture of the universe. Like what exactly?
Things like protostellar disks.
Protostellar disks.
Basically, stars in the womb, solar systems in the making. Without that capability, we are blind to the very birth of the universe's building blocks. We're missing the first chapter of the story.
And the astrophysicist in the article mentioned a mindset issue among the administrators, right?
Yeah, this is quite a damning quote. They call the administrators closed-minded. There's this resistance to buying fractional time on international telescopes. The bureaucracy thinks, why rent when we can build?
Which sounds good on paper.
But building takes decades. We need to rent time now to keep our scientists relevant, to keep them working on cutting-edge data. Otherwise, they'll just leave.
Brain drain.
Exactly. The solution the article pushes for is public-private partnerships. The End Space Initiative is trying to get the private sector involved. We need to stop thinking of space as a government monopoly and start treating it like a proper industry.
Speaking of industries undergoing massive, massive shifts, let's move to the text and context section. Article 5, the SaaSpocalypse. AI Agents and the End of Software Arbitrage.
I love that title, SaaSpocalypse. It sounds incredibly dramatic, but the financial reality, it backs it up. This story starts with the AI company Anthropic releasing a new product called Claude Cowork.
Now, for the listener who might be thinking, oh, great, another chatbot, who cares? Why is this so different?
It's a huge difference. A chatbot talks to you, an agent does things for you. Claude Cowork isn't just a chat window. It's an autonomous digital worker. It can handle legal workflows, it can conduct finance audits, it can run sales processes. It doesn't just assist, it executes.
And the market reaction was violent.
Brutal is the word. When this news dropped, the Goldman Sachs software basket, a key index, dropped 6%. The Indian IT index fell nearly 6%. Which wiped out 2 lakh crore rupees in investor wealth in a blink.
Just like that.
Just like that. Companies like Thomson Reuters and LegalZoom took hits of 15 to almost 20%.
So why such a panic? What's a fundamental fear here?
It's because it kills the business model. The traditional SaaS, software as a service company, charges per seat. They charge per user. If you have 100 employees, you buy 100 licenses for your software.
But if an AI agent can do the work of 3 humans...
You fire the humans,
right,
and you only need maybe 30 licenses. The entire revenue model of the software industry just collapses.
And for India, this is especially terrifying because of the arbitrage threat.
Precisely. The whole Indian IT model, TCS, Infosys, Wipro, has historically been built on labor arbitrage. We have more people who can do the work for cheaper than in the US or Europe. But AI agents, they threaten those entry-level jobs, the testing, the compliance, the maintenance, the base of the pyramid.
And we are already seeing the impact of this.
Yes. The article notes that TCS and other big firms have already reduced their fresh hiring. The pyramid's getting flatter because the bottom layer is being automated away.
So is this the end of Indian IT as we know it? Or is there a pivot?
There is a pivot, but it's a difficult one. The article talks about moving from Bloomberg GPT, which was just a helper, an assistant, to these Goldman Anthropic partnerships where the AI is the worker. The strategy for Indian firms has to be to stop selling cheap labor and start selling AI integration.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Instead of providing, say, 1,000 people to process healthcare claims, a company like Cognizant needs to partner with Palantir or Anthropic to build the system that processes the claims automatically. They need to become the experts who embed these AI agents into big enterprises. It's a very difficult move up the value chain.
Staying with AI, but moving from the boardroom to the bedroom. Article 6. The Algorithmic Heart. AI in the Era of Digital Dating.
From layoffs to love. It turns out dating apps like Tinder and Hinge are panicking too, but for a completely different reason. Swipe fatigue. People are just tired of the game. So they're bringing in AI to try and fix it.
And Tinder has this new feature called Chemistry.
This is where it gets, well, a little creepy. Chemistry scans your camera roll, your personal photos, to understand your personality and find better matches.
Whoa, wait. It scans your entire camera roll. That sounds incredibly invasive.
It is a privacy nightmare. I mean, think about what's in your camera roll. It has everything. Your political leanings, your medical information, maybe intimate photos you never ever intended to share with a dating app.
And the article points out these are black box algorithms. You don't know how that data is being used, how it's being indexed, or if it's being sold.
Exactly. And then there's the other side of it.
Chatfishing. The new catfishing.
The new catfishing. People are now using AI tools, like one called Wing AI, to generate their flirting responses. So you match with someone, you have this incredibly witty, deep conversation.
And it turns out you were flirting with a large language model the whole time.
Exactly. You might be falling in love with a bot. The human element is being completely synthesized.
And it gets worse than just a bad date, right? There's a rise in serious financial scams.
Yes, pig butchering scams. It's a gruesome term for a gruesome crime. Scammers use AI-generated photos, deepfakes, to build a romance over weeks or months. They fatten the pig with affection and trust, and then they slaughter it. They convince you to invest in a fake crypto scheme and steal your life savings.
That is just chilling. So while we are all out there looking for a Zaran Mamdani-style match, that's a reference to the New York mayor who famously met his wife on Hinge, we're now navigating this minefield of AI hallucinations and automated affection.
The takeaway really is trust but verify. And maybe, meet in person sooner rather than later.
Let's ground ourselves back in the physical world with the business section. We're on Article 7 now, India's cold chain renaissance.
This is one of those invisible industries that, well, it basically runs the modern world. The market is projected to jump from $13 billion to $75 billion by 2033. That's a 25% annual growth rate.
The article calls it economic plumbing. I love that metaphor.
It's a perfect metaphor. It's not just about freezers and refrigerated trucks. It determines farmer income. Think about it. If a farmer has a bumper crop of tomatoes, but no cold storage, he has to sell them immediately, even if the price is 2 rupees per kilo.
Because they'll just rot otherwise.
Exactly. But if he can store them, he can wait for the price to stabilize. The cold chain is the difference between a distressed sale and a profit. It's the invisible line between waste and wealth.
And the demand isn't just coming from farmers anymore, is it?
Not at all. It's the quick commerce. Boom. Septo. Blanket. They need massive cold chain infrastructure to get that ice cream to your door in 10 minutes. Plus, the pharmaceutical sector, high-value medicines and vaccines require precise temperature control from the factory to the patient.
So what we're seeing is a shift from old fragmented fridges to these integrated tech-driven platforms.
That's it. It's a massive and very necessary infrastructure upgrade for the entire country.
Next up, Article 8, the Alumnus Advantage, Redefining University Engagement. This is about universities.
Yeah, the author went back to their alma mater, Beats Pilani, after 40 years and noticed this massive culture shift. Indian universities are finally treating alumni as a key customer segment.
Which makes total sense. In the U.S., universities like Harvard or Yale, they basically run on massive endowments from their alumni.
And India is finally catching up to that model. Alumni are brand ambassadors. They're donors. They're connectors to industry who can help graduates find jobs. To compete globally, our universities need that financial and intellectual support from their networks.
So how are they doing it? What's the strategy?
It's becoming professionalized. You have dedicated alumni affairs departments now. They organize recurring engagement events like Bitsian Day or literary festivals specifically for alumni authors. It's all about building a lifelong relationship, not just a 4-year transaction.
Moving from the campus to the skies. Article 9. Ascending Horizons, the future of Indian civil aviation.
This comes out of the Wings India 2026 conference. And the context is pretty stark. India is buying over 5% of the world's new planes. We are a huge customer, but we supply less than 2% of the components that go into them.
That's a massive gap. It's like we're buying the car, but we can't even make the spark plugs for it.
That's a great way to put it. We have serious supply chain issues. We lack our own raw material production and what they call hard metal making capabilities. But there is progress. The government is removing customs duties on components to try and incentivize local manufacturing.
And we are seeing some interesting deals being made.
We are. Air India is ordering 30 more Boeings, but they are also switching some of their Airbus orders to the long-range A321XLR. Now, that plane is a game changer because it can fly long-haul routes with the efficiency of a smaller plane.
And on the indigenous side of things?
HAL is supplying Dhruv helicopters, which is great to see, and the Sakthi group is bringing in 19-seater planes specifically for Tier 2 and Tier 3 connectivity. So we are slowly, very slowly, trying to move from being just buyers to being makers.
Let's head to the foreign section now. Article 10, GOP backlash to Trump's social media imagery.
This was a pretty significant political moment in the U.S. President Trump reposted a video that depicted the Obamas as primates. Let's just be clear about it. It was racist imagery.
Now, usually when Trump does something controversial, the Republican Party, the GOP, is quiet. They tend to look the other way.
That's what makes this different. This time there was a rare bipartisan backlash. GOP lawmakers like Tim Scott, who is the only black Republican senator, Pete Ricketts, and Roger Wicker all publicly condemned it. They called it trash and blatantly racist.
Even his allies spoke out.
Yes. Representative John James, a black Republican who has campaigned with Trump, said he was shocked and appalled, although he did still try to defend Trump's character overall.
And the defense from the White House was, well, it was interesting.
It was clumsy, to say the least. First, they claimed it was a mistake, that he didn't see the end of the video. Then the press secretary tried to claim it was a Lion King reference.
Which didn't hold up to scrutiny.
Not at all. Fact checkers immediately pointed out that the Lion King is set in a savanna, not a jungle, and it doesn't feature apes in that context. It was a very weak defense. But you should look at the counterreaction. The far right, people like Laura Loomer, are now threatening to list the GOP senators who spoke out against him. It really shows the fracture within the party is getting wider.
Finally, we arrive at the spotlight section, and these are the human stories that really, really stick with you. Article 11, the digital Panopticon, gig work and the rating trap.
This one hits hard. It draws a direct comparison between the life of gig workers in India And that Black Mirror episode, Nosedive.
Right, the one where your social rating determines your entire status in society. If you have a low rating, you can't get a good car, you can't live in a good house.
And for urban company workers, that's their reality. If their rating drops below 4.7, or if they cancel more than 4 trips, they get a strike. 3 strikes, and their ID is blocked. They are instantly jobless.
The loss of flexibility seems like the real kicker here. I mean, the whole promise of gig work is supposed to be flexibility. You work when you want.
That's the myth. But the reality is they have these auto-booking features now. The app automatically assigns jobs, and workers are forced to take them, even if they can't. We heard these heartbreaking stories of Sunita, who loses wages if she has to go for mandatory retraining, and Rena, who has to pay cancellation fees when her baby is crying and she can't leave the house.
And there's the basic dignity aspect of it, the washrooms.
This was the most disturbing part for me. Seema Singh, the union president, spoke about women working long hours in customers' homes. And very often, the customers refuse to let them use the bathroom.
That is just, it's dehumanizing.
It is. Now, the company claims that earnings are up. They say the average is 28,000 rupees a month. But the workers argue that the hidden costs of buying the cleaning kits, the uniforms, the commute, it all just eats into that. It's this fundamental clash between algorithmic efficiency and basic human rights.
Our final story, Article 12, takes us to Uttarakhand. The headline is, Voices of Courage in a Divided Uttarakhand.
This is a story of hope amidst a lot of polarization. There is rising communal tension there. We're seeing the renaming of places, constant love jihad rhetoric.
And it centers on this one incident with the shopkeeper, Wakil Ahmed.
Yes. A mob coerced this elderly Muslim man to remove the word Baba from his shop name, which was Baba's school dress. They claimed that the word Baba belongs only to Hindus, and he had no right to use it.
But then a hero steps in.
A man named Mohammed Deepak. Now, he's a Hindu gym owner, but he had adopted the name Mohammed to make a point about unity. He stood up to the mob right there in the street, and now he faces an FIR, he's getting threats to his family, and he is police stationed outside his gym. But he has refused to back down.
And he's not the only one, the article says.
No, and this is the hopeful part. There's Shayla Negi in Nainital. She stood completely alone against a mob that was attacking Muslim shops, just asking them, why are you beating everyone, even as they threatened her with violence. And then there's Dharam Singh Negi, an 83-year-old lawyer in Pirola who refused to evict his Muslim tenants despite posters being put on his house threatening him.
It's a powerful reminder that individuals can make a difference.
It is. The article ends with this beautiful thought. Religion dissolves into urgency. When there is a flood or a crisis, neighbors just help neighbors. These individual acts of defiance, they are what's keeping the social fabric together against all this institutional pressure to tear it apart.
That is a profound note to end on. From the cosmos to the cold chain, and from AI agents to human courage, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today.
It really highlights the incredible complexity of the world we're living in. Technology, politics, and our own humanity are all colliding in real time.
Thank you for listening. If you want to provide suggestions, please contact on the Twitter handle given in the episode description. As always, we are eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about. We wish you a great day.